Tonight on Let It Rip.
Did this all in the name of self-promotion. This is a whitewash of justice.
It's Mr. Smollett who committed this hoax, period.
Outrage after Empire actor Jussie Smollett is let off the hook for staging a hate crime hoax. Was he just being treated like other defendants, or is this an example of a two-tiered justice system? But first,
the Democrats have to now decide whether they will continue defrauding the public with ridiculous bullshit.
President Trump comes out swinging in Grand Rapids, his first rally since he says the Mueller report exonerates him of collusion with Russia. But some Democrats aren't ready to clear him just yet.
I hate this.
And we are back with Congresswoman Debbie Dingell, Theron X, Greg Bowens, Rocky Rexchowski, and Fox 2's Taryn Asher, all of who have been good sports the last half hour as we've been talking under these hot lights about some hot topics. And the one, of course, that everybody seems to be talking about, President Trump and the Mueller report. Let's begin. Let's get into the nitty-gritty here. And I want to start with the Congresswoman because I found this interesting. There was an effort to kind of unearth some of what was found in this report. Senator Rand Paul said, look, we base this investigation on a lie. We should investigate who the liars were now that this investigation is over. What do you say to that?
I don't know that it was a lie. I don't know what's in that report. Quite frankly, there's a handful of people that know what's in that report. Mueller, the people that prepared the report, and the Attorney General. We need to make it public. We need to be transparent about what's in it. And instead of, we do need to know if Russia interfered in our elections. There are a lot of legitimate that we do know.
Every year. They always interfere. You know that.
Right now, let's quit dividing this country. Let's get the facts and let's all stop talking and parsing words on a report. We don't know what's in it.
And isn't that, it seems, yes, indeed, with the media and the American way to get on the soapbox with perhaps not all the information that we need on both sides of the political coin.
That's a good point she's making. Right now, it's all speculation. We don't know until it comes out.
I think there's been a lot of speculation thrown at the Obama administration, as you were talking about earlier, about his involvement or possible involvement as well. So I think there's a lot of people pointing fingers. Bottom line is, Greg, let's go to you for a moment. When we think a little bit about how to frame this for people who are watching, they're sitting back and they're saying, you have a 4-page report. We're waiting on a 300-page report, but we've already determined that there's no collusion. Do you believe it?
No, absolutely not. I mean, given the number of people who were in the top parts of the Trump administration and on the campaign who are going to jail, it seems absolutely ridiculous. You're asking us to do doublethink like it's 1984. We know there was a meeting with the Russians. We know that Paul Manafort gave information. We know that Michael Flynn gave information to the Russians. We know that they pushed to change the Republican platform to go easy on Russia and lift the sanctions. We know all that happened. And so how is it possible if we know that because of the interference by the ambassador and his interaction with the Trump campaign and subsequently lifting the sanctions on Russia, that seems like a direct connection. There's no, you don't have to be Sherlock Holmes to figure that out.
37 people on that list, of course, have indicted, right? So, the saying where there's smoke, there's fire, you're saying not necessarily?
The 37 people were indicted for things that had nothing to do with the campaign or Donald Trump.
That's true.
It had, from Manafort to Flynn to all the individuals.
They were working for President Trump.
They were working for, so could someone that commits a crime from 10 years ago working at a Walmart store. Does that mean that Walmart's guilty of that crime as well?
That's an exaggeration.
I heard you shaking your head saying no. Why do you say no?
Because none of those 37 individuals are being jailed or being prosecuted for crimes committed with the campaign or in collusion with the campaign or during the campaign. They were all prior to the campaign.
Michael Flynn was not prior to the campaign.
Or not disclosing facts to the FBI,
and that was during the administration.
Congresswoman, go ahead.
Well, but Michael Flynn was indicted on becoming part of the administration and is lying to the government, and that's who he had as head of the national security.
But he lied to the FBI to cover up.
If you want to go back, let's go back and examine why 20% of our uranium was given to a Canadian corporation into Russia through the Obama administration. Hillary Clinton, while she was Secretary of State, and Bill Clinton getting $250,000 speaking fees to speak for 10 minutes in Moscow. That has a lot to do with
What does that have to do with this president rolling over for Putin every single chance that he gets? to the point that right now we have troops in Venezuela. Down in South America. The Russians are in South America. Who would have allowed that? There's no president that would have allowed that.
Would you go to war right now in South America because you want to take troops down there?
Let's talk about
you know what, they should not even. The only reason they're doing it is because they know Trump is a chump.
Let's talk about what's next, because we know right now that we don't have all the information, regardless of what side of the coin you're on. We know we don't have all the information. And so as we wait for that report to be released, as Rocky said, and as we all know, it will be released, we then see the 300 pages. The question that I had earlier to the Congresswoman was, does this take wind out of the sails for the Democratic Party if nothing is found?
You know, first of all, I'm going to say that my wind is on working for the American people and delivering for them, worrying about health care. When we talk about taking away pre-existing conditions, the cost of prescription drugs are escalating. The President said tonight that they were coming down more than they ever had. I don't know if that's true or not. I sure hear a whole lot of people, and I've lived at the doctor's office the last few months, crying about the cost of drugs. People want us to fix the damn roads. I'll say that in television. Forgive me, everybody. But they want to see us fix a broken infrastructure. We got to work for the people. We've got people that are worried about their jobs. I will work with the President on fair trade deals. NAFTA is the worst thing that happened to this state.
Many of us agree.
That's what we've got to work on.
Let's take on that note, though. I mean, whether you're thinking about the collusion or the obstruction of justice or the Mueller report, does that matter to the average voter? Do they really even care about this report?
No, they really don't.
No, they care. They were at that rally today, and the President spoke to them, and they got to hear what they wanted to hear. And the average person does care about the roads and health care and what the President can do for them.
They care about jobs, and I got to tell you, today the President had everyone on their feet today talking about what happened with the autos, of course, here in Detroit and in Michigan, and in general, plants that are opening back up. He, of course, demonized NAFTA, as we have heard him do before, and talk about how it never served us well, in his words. However, when we look at the tone of the President, is there anything, Congresswoman, you talked about this just a few minutes ago, that needs to change about the narrative, how we're talking and framing this pitting up against each other?
That's what the problem is. And I'll tell you what, my downriver voter, who I was listening to when I was at the factories and the plants 2 years ago when I said he could win, they're schizophrenic right now because they want somebody to care about them. I, opposed TPP, and he and I agreed on that 2 years ago. Democrats did a terrible job talking about trade, but they don't like the tone. They don't like his anti-Muslim rhetoric or his he divides people.
It's not anti-Muslim, it's pro-American.
But tonight, the way he made personal attacks on, Pocahontas or
I would too. She's a liar.
We don't have to call people names.
Rocky, go ahead.
It's terrible.
Being in politics, because I've run for office and you've run for office, and you know what politics is. It's a politics of destroying your enemy.
I don't do that.
I don't do that either, but it's been done to me. Let me ask you a question. If you continue to assault and attack President Trump and what he's trying to do, what does he do? Does he sit back like George Bush does, or does he fight back? And the American people are actually excited to have a president that will fight back, and fight back not only in Democrats, but Republicans that fight basically for the swamp instead of for the people.
But Rocky, can I ask you something?
He goes after Republicans just like he does Democrats.
Do you think I'm intense? Do you think I'm passionate? Do you think I stand up for what I believe in?
Absolutely,
But do I do it politely? Do I do it civilly? And do I do it with respect?
But listen, you understand how to do it properly. This guy just got into politics.
He's doing everything the right way, and you know it.
No, hold on one second. I don't think. Listen,
his speech, the way he's doing it,
he's been in a different arena.
It's a fresh air,
but let me tell you this. What's interesting is today's when you went to apply for a ticket for tonight's event in Grand Rapids, you had to go on the Trump website. They had 140,000 people ask for tickets for tonight's event.
15,000 seats available,
140,000 people. Yeah. Never heard of before.
Well, let's talk about, as we look forward to
Can I say one thing real quick? Everybody, when they want to praise Trump, they always got to come at it with a caveat. I like what he's doing, but I don't like the way he talks. This guy's fantastic the way he talks. He's a real man out there throat punching. He's not some sissy politician pulling punches and lying.
He talked about his own experience on the debate floor when he was running for president, saying this is his first time he had ever run for office. He didn't know what to expect. He says that he didn't overpromise, but he over-delivered, essentially is what he said. And the rousing crowd of supporters were happy about that. But as we look now at the other side of the coin, of course, the Democrats, we already know that the first debate is being planned for this summer for the top 5 candidates in June.
Miami.
And when that happens, it'll be very interesting to see how the Democratic Party tries to pivot itself against this, whether you like him or not, monster of a enormous stature. And he's an incredibly strong person and someone who knows how to, with his charisma, rally the troops. So what's going to happen as we move forward?
Well, first of all, Debbie, have you announced for president yet? I mean, you're the only Democrat that hasn't.
I like representing the people of the 12th district, but I think he's going to have to be accountable for what the facts are. Okay, General Motors is closing 4 plants. And by the way, I won't forgive them for taking, and I'm going to get in trouble with GM again tonight. They're always mad at me. They just announced last summer they're building a Blazer plant in Mexico.
Right.
I have a problem with that.
Yeah,
so let's
me
not,
too.
well, we do have a problem. So that's not saving jobs. So he's got to actually stand on a real record.
Let me say something here. I think one of the things that's important for us as Democrats is to understand where he's coming from. And what he's doing now is painting a rosy picture for everybody. He's making them feel good. He's saying, don't listen to the negative, just focus on what I'm saying in a relationship. And, if we're able, I think, to paint a better picture, one that gives people more hope about what's going on, then I think we have a chance. This guy insults and has you cracking up. I mean, the Green New Deal could be a really incredible thing that changes our economy. But he cracks jokes about windmills.
We're going to have this
He talks about the coal industry, which is like the horse and buggy,
So, gentlemen, this conversation begins tonight. And it perhaps never ends, but of course the next chapter will be when that report is released and people are able to see it, including the Congresswoman and others. And of course we'll be staying tuned very closely to that. Now to this story. Just a few days ago, actor Jussie Smollett faced the possibility of prison time for faking a hate crime. Today, he's a free man. What does this say about the justice system and our celebrity culture? That debate is next.
I've been truthful and consistent on every single level since day one. I would not be my mother's son if I was capable of one drop of what I have been accused of.
That's Empire actor Jussie Smollett moments after he learned that all charges against him were dropped in his alleged hate crime hoax. We are back with Congresswoman Debbie Dingell, Thayer X, Greg Bowens, Rocky Rexkowski, and Fox 2's Taryn Asher. All of you, of course, have at least watched, as all of us have, these headlines unfold, and it's been really a saga that's been almost made for TV, it seems, because at the end here, we really don't know what happened.
Oh, yeah, we do.
Well,
we know what happened.
We know it.
Tell me what you think happened.
First of all, I hope he doesn't get pulled over by a Chicago cop.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, he has crossed that Chicago police force, and all the false police reports, when he was rolled, he didn't even drop his Subway sandwich. Next, I'm going to start carrying a Subway sandwich as a concealed weapon, man. But I mean, all that stuff was bought with a credit card. There's a paper trail so that they bought the rope that went around his neck, the bleach, the whole 9 yards. The thing was a lie top to bottom.
Okay, so that's what the whole hoax and the alleged hoax that we're talking about here that may or may not have happened. The bottom line is he was charged, and then the charges were dropped.
He cried race in a crowded nation, too.
This was something that it seems, and I don't want to say unprecedented, because I'm sure this has happened many times before, but in such a high-profile case, Greg, what do you make of that when you have a situation where somebody is claiming that this happened, charges filed for filing a false police report, and then those charges suddenly dropped?
Well, what happened with him happens every single day with, first-time nonviolent offenders. They cut a deal as opposed to going to trial. If he keeps his nose clean for a year, the whole thing goes away. If he catches a charge on something else, this thing will come roaring back at him.
There was no deal, though.
It was 16 felony charges. It was 16 felony charges.
Here's the question, though. If you're a victim...
It's called a diversion. It's called a pretrial diversion. That's what it was.
But if you're a victim,
did you read it, Rocky?
This is the curious part. If you are a victim, why do you give your $10,000 bond away? And why do you agree to community service? I mean, there are many people watching saying, hey, if I'm a victim, I'm going to continue to fight.
The prosecutor said exactly what this was, that they had reached an agreement with this guy, and his case, his situation was the same for lots of people, except he happens to be more high profile. Not everybody goes to the gallows on everything. Now, on this one, I think we all felt the shock, because when he did it, it looked kind of funny at first, like who's getting a Subway sandwich at 2 o'clock in the morning and getting attacked in the only place where there are no cameras.
The Subway sandwich.
Right?
You say this happens all the time, and while you may be right about that, if you think about the people who are watching right now, anyone who was on the wrong side of the law who's watching right now, who wanted to find a better life and didn't have that opportunity to have charges dropped against you,
and there are
that's
lots of people
privilege.
that have.
That's privilege, though. And when you think about one second there, and when you think about celebrity justice and the culture around that, let's reflect on that for a moment. Rocky, what are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. You know, you had a prosecutor that recused herself, and then she basically invoked herself back, unrecused herself, invoked herself back in the case. And there's a lot of questions that Rahm Emanuel, the mayor of the city of Chicago, has brought up. He's obviously livid. The police chief and the commissioner are livid with this. And if I lived in Chicago, I would be livid too. But again, it's a situation that we don't know all the facts, but once they become unsealed, like
here's what we know. This guy diverted resources in a murderous city from the streets.
Absolutely.
This guy also was trying to foment, whether he knew it or not, a race riot
between Trump supporters.
Well, now, and the city of Chicago is now charging him, what, $135,000
he should pay back every penny
he has to pay back.
But Congresswoman Dingell, I mean, the question is also, a lot of this divided our country once again, going back because he brought up President Trump talking about him today in the rally, drawing attention to what happened in Chicago. I mean, what is your feelings on that when you see just the further destruction of our society?
First of all, I cannot stand the way that this country is being torn apart with fear and hatred. You know, we need to, united we stand, divided we fall, and we're getting close to falling way too much. I don't have one single iota of what idea of what the true facts are in Chicago. And I'm more confused. I watch it every day, and I get more confused. I know we have double standards. Look at the jails that are full of people that didn't have the lawyers that a lot of other people had. So the criminal justice system in this country is not fair. We know we need serious criminal justice reform.
It's fair as it can be. And everything's flawed.
The president
it's the best one in the world.
The president they wrote today, again, addressing this situation and saying, hey, we should look into this. When you have the president of the United States talking at a rally about the import of this issue or a particular case, it does bring attention to the fact that this just can't go away, right?
But what happened in Charlotte, Virginia, too? I mean, we're kind of on both sides of this. What we need to do is to find a way that we can try to bring ourselves more together.
How do we do that?
Well, for starters, we can start being more respectful and treating everybody with respect and dignity. And we don't take pot shots at individuals.
We could also call Antifa a terrorist organization that did the thing in Charlotte.
Can I say this? We had both sides there, and I'm going to tell you, I'm as uncomfortable. I have been at demonstrations where I had John at one, where Antifa was there, and I was worried about getting him out if I had to get out.
It's a terrorist organization.
Antifa did not murder that woman in Charlotte, so let's not.
They started the riot.
No. Antifa did not drive a car into a crowd.
That criminal was a standalone one-off thing. That wasn't a movement.
White nationalist Nazi, that's what he was.
What we need to do is, we've got extremists on both sides. We've got people that don't treat each other with dignity and respect on both sides. We've got people that are fanning flames of hatred in this country on both sides, and we need to we have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. We need to listen to each other and stop talking as much.
I'm going to use that one mouth for a moment to ask a question, and that's an interesting one, so I can use my 2 ears to hear your answer. And this one has to do with the fact that Jussie Smollett in many circles is hated right now, and the reason is because of the divide and the outrage that was caused by the allegations that he made. Should he be more publicly apologetic about being in a situation that put the country on edge yet again?
You know what? The Jussie Smollett situation is not a divide. It was an embarrassment on a national stage that I think we all, black, white, everybody felt. And so there's no divide.
How is it not a divide, though, when you talk about who attacked him and he said it was...
Because he tried to take advantage, clearly, allegedly tried to take advantage of the racial divide that's gone on. But all of us as American citizens watching this thing unfold on the stage of life, I don't think that we're so far apart on it. We all saw the ridiculousness of what had occurred and how it's played out. And I don't think that, white folks and black folks are fighting each other over Jussie Smollett.
No.
You know, so there's no divide there in relation to that.
Yeah, he's a one-off.
You know, but there is a feeling out there, because we do sometimes have to look at things, or we view things or see things through the lens of race. And so you have this African American who is facing 16 counts, going to jail for a long time over filing a false police report, and the media had picked it up. And it's like, so should he spend the rest of his life in jail? Some people feel like that.
It would have been the rest of his life.
He should pay back every penny that it cost
some
the
people
Chicago
feel
Police
like
Department.
that if 16 counts on the felony, you know, you're facing some serious jail time. And would he have been facing that kind of jail time if it had not been blown up?
He's got to take some acting lessons too.
Well,
he's got
you know, I don't know. I mean, yeah. So should he? I think he should step up and say, "Hey, you know what? I'm really sorry for everything that has occurred and my role in it."
He read an apologetic letter, or not an apologetic letter, rather a letter that he was reading with no apologetic tone at all, about how he wouldn't be his mother's son and make those types of remarks. You know, when you talk like that, it seems as though you're reading, and I know it's lawyered up, but clearly it didn't seem like there was a lot of heart in that.
Not a lot of remorse.
Do you believe him at all?
That community wasted millions of dollars on this thing.
Absolutely not. And the sad part about it is, you're absolutely right, Greg. It becomes a national embarrassment. He joins individuals like O.J. Simpson, who's still looking for the real killer, and is now Jussie going to be out there looking for the real assailants? It becomes more of a joke.
Well, and I think that it goes back to, again, he brought in, you know, MAGA country. He brought in homophobic issues. He brought up race. He played on every hot button issue. 100%. And the way he played it out, I mean, that's getting everybody up in arms about this situation. And then many people think, my goodness, he should be held accountable for this mess that he's created and the resources that he wasted, claiming all of it did happen.
I want to ask one question, and of course we're going to have to wrap it up after that in just a few moments after we take a break. But on this particular topic, it kind of looks at both the Trump factor, of course, as the president, the civility factor, the divide factor. When you look at all of that, what responsibility does a politician or a president have to make that better? Rocky, we'll begin with you.
Well, you know, during the Obama administration, Rahm Emanuel was his chief of staff, and President Obama injected himself in a local matter, a local legal matter, and that was the beer summit, if you all remember, the police officer in the beer summit.
Vilified the police for doing their
I honestly think that the locals should handle local matters. The president should handle national matters.
Congresswoman, what do you think?
I think that a leader has a responsibility to lead, and that leaders should be setting the tone for the country. And this president is my biggest problem with this president. Forget all the policy issues. He has set a tone in this country that is dividing us.
Is the tone always appropriate?
I am thrilled that we have a president who's actually speaking the truth and speaking up for the forgotten man for the first time. And not working with the globalist elites. And that's somewhat deep in the weeds, but for the first time we have a president that's not doing that. I love it.
Greg, he's different. He definitely is playing a different tune, right?
He certainly is, and I think one of the things that's really important is that the president and the governor and all these people who are in leadership positions have the obligation and the responsibility to reinforce our institutions and reinforce our faith in institutions. And unfortunately, this president doesn't do that.
Greg Bowens, thank you so much. You've heard from the panel. Up next, it's your turn when Charlie Langton, even though he's not sitting next to us today, he's not going to miss taking this one on the road. Next.
We don't miss him either.
I do.
You know that Mueller investigation?
Yeah, that's bull crap.
I think it's full of mess. Do you want to see all the evidence from the Mueller investigation? Not really.
I think this evidence would do some good at least getting the truth out.
Do you think it's going to change any mind from anybody?
No, it doesn't change because Trump is okay. Because he did not done anything wrong.
Do you think the president colluded with Russia?
Yeah.
It's not going to change anything.
Do you think this could hurt the Democrats' chances to regain the presidency by pushing this investigation too much?
Yeah, 2020, they are going to lose the Congress too.
I do think the American people deserve to know what's been going on and not just get a short summary of the Justice Department's word on it.
Would you read all those documents?
Me personally?
Yeah.
No, I would let my brother Speed read through it for me and then tell me what's going on.
No, I'll just wait till it come on TV and they pick out what they want to pick out, and I'll listen to it and then go on by my business.
All right, we have 2 minutes. Let's let the clock tick, and we'll begin with Greg Bowens for some final thoughts on today's topics.
Well, you know what? Democracy is messy. People argue. And the thing about having a free society is that we have the ability to have these arguments back and forth and have these discussions. And so I'm not so concerned about, like, the incivility part that you are. I get it. But I think that there have been times in this country where we have been way more uncivil towards each other to the point of putting people in camps. And I can run down the bloody history that we've had and that we've moved through. So this is baby talk and baby stuff compared to what we've done as a nation.
All right, Greg. Thank you, Theron.
If you go back and look at Google Analytics, I think it is, on the day that they released this report, the search for the word exonerate was up 25,000%. America can't read. America's not educated.
What?
But that's a fact. I want to see more honest talk. I want to see more people stand up and actually not be afraid to say something that might make somebody mad. Like
I'm not afraid to do that.
No, I know. You guys aren't afraid to hijack the floor and bring in barbecue either.
Well, Theron, thank you so much for joining us here. We appreciate your time. Congresswoman, the fear of being able to speak up and not face incivility.
I'm going to tell you what I want. I want this report to be made public, and then we can all actually know what we're talking about.
I'll agree with that.
Bottom line. All right, Rocky?
The report will be public. Trump got elected because the anger of the people.
The forgotten man?
Yeah, the forgotten man and woman. The families and their hatred towards Washington.
Working men and women.
Of not listening to him. But more importantly, I'd like to take a quick second and send a shout out from all of us to Brooks Patterson.
Yes.
We saw what Brooks is fighting, and we're all behind you, Brooks. And I know that Oakland County's been under great leadership by his hands in the last 30 years.
And I think both sides of the aisle, Taryn, people agree that he's a dedicated public servant.
It's true. It's true. But, you know, going back to what we were saying, I really think, though, if we keep the economy strong, Trump keeps the economy strong, and everybody, you know, having jobs and going in that direction, he will be reelected. That the average voter does not care about this investigation.
Guys, that's all we have for today. That's it for this edition of Let It Rip. The news at 11. The Edge coming up next.
The Let It Rip discussion continues online. Sound off on Facebook, Twitter, or fox2detroit.com.